I'm Frederik Otto. I'm the founder of the Sustainability Board Report, a global project or think tank that examines the relationship between sustainability, business leadership, and corporate governance. We wanted to understand who will lead the agenda on sustainable business. Who are the players that might drive it? What systems and pressures will influence directions? So we have developed a new scenario report that explores sustainable business leadership in 2030. It seeks to understand what the future might look like, including what factors will influence it. And two key factors provided the framework for the scenarios. The first is whether individualistic or systemic approaches to sustainability are favored. And the second is whether pressure for action emanates from markets or society. This yielded 4 scenarios: ESG entrepreneurs, idealist CEOs, leading boards, and governments and stakeholders. Our first world is the scenario of ESG entrepreneurs. In 2030, businesses cater to consumers or customers that are most concerned with their short-term consumption. But various individuals within organizations advocate for their business to be designed more sustainably. In this hypothetical future, the leadership approach to sustainability is shaped by the pressure for action arising from market factors. ESG entrepreneurs must carefully design their impact around the existing business so as not to deter market stakeholders like shareholders or customers. The response to sustainability also is individualistic. We can clearly pinpoint to these employees in an organization, whether it is, for example, a head of ESG or chief sustainability officer. Our second world is that of idealist CEOs. In 2030, the need for breakthrough solutions to address climate change and social issues creates a market with ample opportunity for innovative and visionary entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. Hence, the pressure for action is driven by societal factors, but it is still shaped by an individualistic response. Our third scenario is that of leading boards. In 2030, shareholders pressure companies to implement tight governance around sustainability. ESG-aligned board of directors, committed chairs, and educated board members drive a sustainable strategy. Contrary to the scenario of ESG entrepreneurs or idealist CEOs, the response to execute the sustainability agenda is systemic rather than individualistic. Boards are a faceless group to many. Like in scenario 1, ESG entrepreneurs, market pressures drive the agenda. Only this time it is ESG activist investors rather than certain employees. And our fourth world is that of governments and stakeholders. In 2030, businesses are too slow to adopt a material sustainability agenda. Governments and other stakeholders proactively shape market rules and dynamics. Leadership is also systemic in this scenario, as governments and stakeholders force businesses to adopt an agenda concerning these issues. And of course, the pressure for action is societal. We can imagine civic actions such as boycotting business that have failed to adapt. So what can one do with this information? Leaders can use the scenarios to identify patterns in their current leadership and strategic trajectory. That is, they can fast forward and visualize sustainable business leadership in 2030 and consider pivots to their prevailing approach in the present. Depending on one's individual context, one can use the scenarios in different ways. A business school might want to review their learning materials about business leadership. How will the factors described in the scenarios potentially affect lessons in the future? Policy outfits and market observers such as think tanks might want to incorporate sustainability-led leadership narratives into their portfolio of issues. Lawmakers may want to understand what factors drive a business in the upcoming decade. How can governments most effectively contribute to foster sustainable leadership that their communities need? Heads of HR might want to prepare for policies that cater to ESG entrepreneurs, for example. Board of directors might want to think about how the board would handle an idealist CEO and how to harness the energy of these leaders and work constructively with them. ESG investors need to rigorously assess the makeup, character, and know-how of the board of their investments. They will want to review the governance frameworks and structures, including the presence of dedicated sustainability committees and competent directors. CEOs might want to plan for the scenario of demanding societies where governments and stakeholders lead. Business strategy must account for the perpetual need for innovation and reinvention of product and services to cater to the needs of the wider organizational ecosystem. Regardless of what future one is considering, all scenarios need a strategy. It is important to translate actions and initiatives into a well-articulated and clear corporate strategy to systematically engage with the future.